Jai Prabhuji. Hello everybody and welcome once again to our course of the book of Prabhuji, Kundalini Yoga, The Power is in You. This is a book and this is the basics of all the information that we're sharing during this course. My name is Radha Devi and I am a monastic disciple of Prabhuji. Today during this class, we're going to have the opportunity to explore and get to know what is the first center, which is the Muladhara Chakra or root chakra. This will be the translation of Muladhara. What we're going to do during the class is that while we're speaking, we're going to be mentioning different Sanskrit terms that maybe for some of you will be the first time listening to them. So we're just going to give also a brief definition of these terms. And if you already have the book, then you will probably notice that the order in the way that we are presenting the Muladhara Chakra is not in the same order that we have it in the book, but we accommodated the order of the information that is presented here. We are expanding this information, we are enriching it with different sources, and you will notice if you already have the book. We are going to begin by visualizing, by actually getting to know how the yantra of the Muladhara Chakra looks like. For whoever didn't listen to our introductory class where we explain what is a yantra and we actually show all the yantras of all the centers, then yantra is a diagram. It's a diagram that in this case where each chakra has a different yantra in order to represent it. So I thought it was good to start by seeing it and by explaining and getting familiar with all the symbols that are included in the yantra of the first center. Something else that you will notice, because now I want to start showing different images, is the fact that depending the source, as we mentioned a few times, you will see that the drawing, this symbol is going to have different details. Some have many more details than others. They are even including the deities and the devas that are presiding the chakra. But the explanation that we're going to offer today is going to be related to the yantra that we use in the book. We're going to mention different colors. In the book is without colors, but you saw in the different images that I just presented some of the colors that are included in the Muladhara Chakra. Okay, so the yantra that represents the Muladhara Chakra has 4 petals, whose letters are Vam, Sham, Sham, and Sam. What we're going to see in regards to the numbers of these petals is that each chakra has a particular number of petals, and it's going to include a Sanskrit alphabet on each of the petals. So the vibration that is produced at each petal, it's going to be represented by the corresponding Sanskrit letter. So every letter is going to denotate the mantra of the Devi Kundalini, of the Kundalini Shakti. And the letters exist in these petals in a Latin form. What happens is that when we focus our attention and when we are concentrated in these different centers, then these can actually be manifested. This vibration that we have in each nadis, they can actually be manifested and felt during these different practices that we're going to get to know in our classes of the sadhana. So during the concentration, you can actually feel these different vibrations. So as we saw in our introductory class, the number of the petals of these different lotuses is going to vary. We have the Muladhara, the Swadhisthana, the Manipura, the Anahata, the Vishuddha, and the Anya chakras. And they will have 4, 6, 10, 12, 16, and 2 petals respectively. So here you see that all the 50 Sanskrit letters are going to be on this total sum of all the petals that I just mentioned, which is 50. So the number of petals that is in each chakra is going to be determined by the number of the nadis that are around that chakra. So to clarify, from each chakra, a particular number of nadis it's coming out of them. So the chakra is giving this appearance of a lotus. This is why we're using the lotus to represent in this symbol. And as I mentioned, another of the names, which is very common to refer to the chakras, is going to be Padma, which is lotus. So the sound that is produced by the vibration of the nadis is going to be corresponding to a Sanskrit letter. And then the chakras with their petals are going to be hanging downwards when the Kundalini is at the Muladhara chakra, or when it's still sleeping. When it's awakened, then the petals are going to turn towards the Brahmarandra, which is the cave of Brahma. The Brahmarandra we explained in previous classes. It's actually where the Sahasrara chakra is located. So they will always be facing the side of the Kundalini, depending if it's awakened or not. These petals are facing the side of the Kundalini. They are following the Kundalini. The other thing that we're going to see, besides this explanation in regards to the petals of these mantras that we find in each petal, is the fact that there is what we call a Bija mantra, which is the vibration of the very center of the chakra. And this Bija mantra for the Muladhara chakra is Lam. As we saw in our previous class, each chakra has their Bija mantra, which is representing the center of the vibration. For example, for the Swadhisthana, it's going to be Vam, and then for the Manipura, it's going to be Ram. So each of them has their Bija mantra, and I am mentioning this word a few times for whoever doesn't know the definition of Bija. Basically, Bija can be translated as a seed. It's a Sanskrit term that literally means seed. And what we're going to see is that in yoga, this word can be used in different numbers of ways. Firstly, it's like a metaphor for the starting point of the origin of all creation. It's a seed from which everything is originated. This is one of the terminology. And another common use of this term is to refer to what we're speaking in this class, which are the Bija mantras. Then we continue explaining this yantra of the Muladhara. Within it, like within the lotus, we explain the lotus with the 4 petals, and within the lotus lies a yellow square, which is symbolizing the earth element. We spoke how the element of the Muladhara is earth, and at the end of the class we're going to share a little bit more of what's the meaning of this earth element connected to the Muladhara. Then in the lower part of the square, there is a downward pointing triangle with a yoni that symbolizes the Shakti or femininity. And there is also a linga that is going to symbolize Shiva or masculinity. Again, for whoever doesn't know these 2 terms that I just mentioned, which are yoni and lingam. Yoni is a Sanskrit word that means abode. Also can mean source. It can be translated as womb and also as vagina. So in Hinduism, this specific symbol is of the goddess Shakti. It's the feminine generative power, and it's also when we want to represent it as the goddess, then it's going to be this symbol is going to work as the consort of Shiva. So we see the yoni. As I said, it's going to be representing the femininity. The Shakti as a goddess will be the consort of Shiva. This is for the yoni. And then the lingam will be kind of the opposite aspect, the other aspect of this yoni, of this Shakti, what we see is that in the Shaivism, which is this branch of the Hinduism that is devoted to the worship of the god Shiva, we mentioned it a few times already, the yoni is going to be very often associated with the lingam, which is Shiva's symbol. So to represent Shiva, we use the lingam. What we're going to see, and I want to show a few images, is that in different sculptures and paintings, the lingam is actually depicted as resting in the yoni. It's resting as a cylinder in a spouted dish. So we have the yoni, and then resting in it is going to be the lingam. These two symbols together are going to represent this eternal process of creation and regeneration. They are going to represent this union between the male and the female principles, and also the totality of all existence. Something else that I want to mention before we continue sharing in regards to the Muladhara, because we're almost finished explaining in regards to the yantra itself, is the fact that many times when we're going to refer to the Muladhara, we're going to share mainly also in regards to the seat of the Kundalini. It is said in different scriptures, and we're going to read also very soon, in regards that this is the location of the Kundalini. This is where the Kundalini is coming from, the origin of the Kundalini. What we're going to see is that in the center of the square, below the seed syllable, there is, like we saw, this triangle. Then we have the Kundalini Shakti. It says that is sleeping here. She's waiting to be aroused and to be brought back up to Brahman or Shiva, which is the source from which she is actually originated. So this Kundalini is going to be represented by a snake that is grabbed 3.5 times around the lingam. I want to show the image again so you see it again. This, you see the triangle, and inside is the lingam, and around the lingam you see the Kundalini, which is doing 3.5 rounds. These 3.5 rounds are representing the 3 modes of nature. For the ones that don't remember, we have tamas, which is ignorance, we have rajas, which is passion, and we have sattva, which is benevolence or goodness. So then we have this half round, which is representing transcendence. It's transcendence that we want to achieve by the practice of the Kundalini, this transcendence that we spoke when we share about the gunas, how actually from the mode of sattva, it's the mode that we can actually transcend all of them, because while we are still in this reality of names and forms, we are still kind of a slave. Our soul is slave of these 3 modes of nature. So this half round, it's going to represent this potential that we actually want to awaken with the practice of the Kundalini, this potential to reach our divine state, to recognize the divine in us. We are going to continue speaking about the meaning of the name. The meaning of the name Muladhara, we have Mula, that means foundation, root, base, or support. And then the word Adhara means substratum. So just as its name suggests, the Adhara chakra, the base chakra, is going to be the foundation of our physical existence and the whole system of chakras. Then we have what we can call alternative names of the chakra, which are also giving us more information in order for us to get to know more about this chakra. And it's going to depend from where we're taking it, because we can find it in tantric terminology, in the Upanishads, we will see now. This chakra has other names in the tantric terminology, which is Adhara, that means the lower one. Then we have Brahma Padma, which is Brahma's lotus. Bhumi Chakra, which is the ground chakra. Katurdala, the 4-petal one. Katu Patra, the 4-leafed one. Muladhara, the lower base, Mula Chakra, the root chakra, the Mula Padma, the foundation lotus. Then in the Vedas and in the Upanishads, they use very similar names, which are Adara, Brahma, Muladhara, Mulakanda, which is the root bulb, and finally we can also find it in the Puranic terminology, where they call it Adara and Muladhara. So as you probably notice, the most common names to refer, doesn't matter where, to refer to the Muladhara chakra are going to be Muladhara or Adara chakra. Let's continue by reading what we find in the Shiva Samhita in regards to this first center. There is a space like a bulbous root, which is 4 fingers wide. It is located 2 fingers above the rectum and 2 fingers below the genitals. The yoni is located in this space. It faces toward the back. It is called the root, where the goddess Kundalini dwells. It surrounds all the nadis, has 3.5 coils, and rests in the hole of Sushumna, holding its tail in its own mouth. It sleeps there like a serpent and is luminous with its own light. Like a serpent, it lives between the joints. It is the goddess of speech and is called the seed, Vijaya. This is from the Shiva Samhita 5, from the 56 till the 58. We saw here many things. We saw here things that we mentioned in our previous classes, and I want to refer to a few of them. One of them, it's explaining to us the exact location. It mentioned what we spoke about earlier in regards to the yoni, and inside this yoni, this triangle that we saw in the yantra of the Muladhara, the Kundalini is resting there. And something else that I wanted to refer again is the fact that this the Kundalini itself, it has its mouth also around it, and when it's awakened, then she's actually clearing the path in order to rise from the same place. So I wanted to share something that I didn't share earlier in regards to the different ways that we are representing the Muladhara chakra, is that sometimes people is going to put the Kundalini facing downward, and another ones are going to do it facing upwards. And this is representing the actual state of the Kundalini. When it's facing downward, it's going to be because it's sleeping, and when it's facing upward, then it says that it's already awakened, or there is an aspiration to awaken it. So this first center in the human beings, it's going to be the last one in the animal kingdom. And in it, this animal state is going to culminate, and the human one, it's going to begin. This is where the Kundalini Shakti and the divine potential of every individual is going to lie coiled, as we explained. So there is no wonder that we see that in this center is where we're going to begin with our practices. For the ones that already saw our class in regards to the awakening of the Kundalini, we saw that one of the most simple, the simplest way to awaken the Kundalini is to focus our attention in this center. So now that we read about what the Shiva Samhita is saying, and now that we are getting to know that this is the actual location of the Kundalini, we have the reason why our practices are focusing first in this first center. I want to make a parenthesis here to share that in different books, different authors, different enlightened beings are also recommending to begin the practice of the awakening of the Kundalini actually focusing in the Ajna chakra, focusing in opening the Ajna chakra. So I want to refer to this because, as we mentioned, we are following the information that is shared by Prabhuji in this book, and he also shares how it can differ from text to text, and he's sharing from his own experience, and only when this one is together, it's the same as his master taught him. So this is the information that we're sharing for whoever maybe heard already in regards to this information and the opening of the chakras. In the section that we're going to be speaking about the sadhana of the Kundalini Yoga, we will see that first we're going to focus with the first center. Then this center, the Muladhara chakra, is going to be associated with our corporeal survival and also with our relationship with this physical nature. It's going to be also very tied to sex as a means to procreate and to propagate our species. So through its connection with our instincts, this is bringing our automatic behaviors and those unconscious habits that are very essential to our survival. So, as we mentioned, this is the highest chakra, the highest center in the animal state, and it's the beginning of the human. So, obviously, it's going to be very connected to our instincts, to our animal instincts that we say it's to procreate, to have a roof, to have protection, to survive. Like these are the qualities that are related with this specific center. And then when we continue going higher, then there are other needs that we will want to fulfill. But basically, here we're sharing with the animals, and many different scriptures are going to be saying like, after we are occupied with other needs, besides these three that I just mentioned, this is when we actually are human. Like we can actually think with logic and choose, and not only be derived by by these instincts that are related to this first center. And because we are just sharing how we're having these unconscious habits, but at the same time they are essential to our survival, I wanted us to make the connection with what we share in regards to the fact that each center is also related to one of the modes of nature. And in this case, the mode of nature that is related with this center is tamas, which is the mode of ignorance, of laziness. It's also related to drowsiness. When we are doing actions from tamas, this is going to delay and obstruct our actions, and it's also inducing us to negligence, and it's also keeping consciousness obscure. So usually the motivations for tamasic activities are basically gross sensory enjoyment, and also to escape from immediate discomfort. This is what is driving these activities. When tamas is the predominant guna, because remember that we spoke that we are always under one of these three gunas, depending on the time of the day, we are always ruled by one of them. And when it's tamas, then the people is going to be characterized by lethargy and also indolence. And they do not act logically. They are not guided by reason, but their actions are instinctive. And they do what they like to do, and they postpone what they do not. So I just wanted to mention, when we're speaking in regards to this instinctive level, then we see how the tamas is really connected, and it's actually what is also affirming and helping that these are the type of actions related to this center. We're going to continue sharing in regards to the location. We heard how it is said in the Shiva Samhita that the Muladhara chakra is going to be located at the very base of the spinal cord, and it's going to be between the anus and and the base of the genitals, which is going to be also the intersection of the nadis Sushumna, Ida, and Pingala. The kshetram of the first center is at the base of the spinal cord, so as you just noticed, the kshetram and the location itself of the first center is in the same place. For whoever didn't hear our first class where we spoke about kshetram, this is the location in the front of our body of each chakra. It's not the location itself, but a representation of the chakra in order for us to focus our attention and to connect with the actual chakra that we cannot see with our eyes. It's located in our astral body, so we cannot actually see it. But we use the kshetram in order to connect with it. From this center, we are going to obtain the vital energy that we need in order to confront or to avoid dangers. So we have always two directions, and we will see also in our next class how is so different the influence of the center when it's in balance or when it's not. So here we can start to see how we have the energy either to avoid or to confront different dangers that can threaten us. We also are going to acquire the discipline to accept limitations that are essential in order to maintain a good physical state, remembering that this centers it's very related to our physical and corporeal state. So even though this is one of the most basic chakras, it is important to mention and to understand that we shouldn't underestimate it, because just because it's the lower or the minor center, we will see that as we are advancing spiritually, our connection with it is going to take greater importance. And I compare it to the foundations of a building. When we want to build something, we need to make sure that the foundation are strong enough to support the heaviness of all the weight that we're going to put on top of it. So in this same way, this is the basis, the foundation of all the system of the chakras. So I think it's saying by itself how important is this connection with this first chakra that is providing this stability for the other chakras to open, and this stability for the awakening of the Kundalini. In this chakra, for whoever doesn't remember, is where it lies the Brahma Granthi, which is the knot of Brahma, this knot that is related with our material attachments, our attachments for sensual pleasure, our attributes or quality about hoarding, accumulating things. And we saw how after these attachments are actually transcended, this knot is opening. In our next class, we're going to delve in the psychological qualities that are related to this center. But for now, I just wanted to mention that deficiencies in this center are going to be expressed as trying to escape from the reality, to evade it. We are going to escape to a world of fantasies, like a dream. And when it's actually working as it's supposed to, we have the strength to actually see the reality. We're not escaping or evading it, but also our observation, our perception of the world and of ourselves, then it's improved. We saw how in the awakening of the Kundalini, every time there is a perforation of one of the centers, our vision, the same way that if we are in a tall building, it's going to be more clear. So in the same way, as soon as we open the first center, our clarity and our discrimination improves, and we no longer try to escape or evade situations of our lives. I want us now to read what Swami Purnananda is mentioning in regards to the benefits of meditating on this center. He says, by meditating thus on Kundalini, who shines within Mula Chakra. With the brilliance of 10 million suns, one becomes the Lord of speech, the king of all, and an adept of all kinds of learning. One becomes eternally free of all disease, and the innermost spirits become full of great bliss. Pure of disposition, through one's deep and poetic words, one serves all the superior gods. And this we find it in the Chakra Nirupana by Swami Purnananda. This one is the verse number 13. The Sat Chakra Nirupana is a book that we're going to be referring to along the way in the classes in regards to the chakras. Is translated as the investigation of the 6 centers, the exploration of the 6 chakras, and it's a very well-known book. It's like an authority source in regards to the topic of the chakras. One of the last things that I want us to share in regards to the Muladhara chakra today is its presiding deities. And in this specific case, I want to remind that the information that we're finding in regards to each chakra, its attributes, it's different depending where we find it, and we're going to see here because the presiding deities that we find in the book are Brahma and Ganesha. And in many different books, we're going to find that it's not Brahma, but baby Brahma. And many times they are not going to even mention Ganesha. So for us, for the information that we find in the book, which is brought by Prabhuji, the presiding deities are going to be Brahma and Ganesha. Let's speak a little bit about Brahma and Ganesha. Lord Brahma is the first deity of the Trimurti, which is the Vedic triad. For whoever is listening to this term, the Trimurti, for the first time, Tri comes from 3, and Murti many times is translated as form or also as deity. So 3 deities. This is representing this Vedic triad, this Holy Trinity. Many times they're going to also refer to it with these names. And it's comprised by Brahman, which we're going to be speaking about. We have also Vishnu and Shiva. Brahma is going to be representing the creator of the universe. Vishnu is going to be represented the maintenance, the preserver of the universe, and Shiva is the destructor of the universe. So from this triad, we're going to be speaking about Brahma, which is the creator of the universe and who was born, the story says, from a lotus flower that emerged from the navel of Lord Vishnu. Brahma, this name literally means evolution or development. And it's depicted as a deva with 4 heads, and it's facing the different cardinal points. And he has a white beard that is symbolizing wisdom. And in one of each mouth, he's reciting the sacred Vedas, the Rig, the Yajur, the Sama, and the Atharva Veda. He also has 4 hands in which he's holding, in one of them, he's holding a mala, which is a rosary. In the other one, he has the Vedas text, which is Pustaka. In the other one, he has a vessel with the water of light, which name is Kamandalu. And in the last one, he has a lotus flower. We know that the name for lotus is Padma. Then we can speak about his wives. His wives are Saraswati, which is the goddess of knowledge, of science and arts, and also Savitri, which is also called Gayatri. She is the daughter of Visavan, the sun god. Lord Brahma is going to be residing in the Brahma Loka, and he uses a swan. This is his vehicle, where he traveled through the universe, which is also called Hamsa. Now we can speak about Ganesha. He is the sacred god with the head of an elephant. He is going to be the son of Shiva and Parvati, and he is depicted as the god of intelligence and language. He is considered to be a very great remover of obstacles, so it's very auspicious to invoke him, to pray to him before doing certain activities or doing certain trips. So whenever you are going out in the car, it's very auspicious to actually pray, to recite the mantras of Ganesha. He was also chosen as the leader of the guards of the Lord Shiva, and this is why there is the origin of his names, which are Ganesha, Gana Isha, which is the guard of the Lord, or Ganapati. This is another name which is very common to refer to Ganesha, which is Lord of Troops or Lord of Ganas. Troops are Ganas. So I want us to share about the story, which is very interesting, about Lord Ganesha. This story is narrated in the chapters 13 to 18 in the Shiva Purana, in the Rudra Samhita. What is told is that Skanda was born the eldest son of the goddess Parvati and Lord Shiva. So with the ecstasy that Parvati had, it was so intense, they say, that her breasts were producing sacred milk, like a lot of sacred milk. And what she did is that, using this milk and sandalwood paste that she was using to in her body, what she did is that she molded a statue, and she said that this was going to become her second son. So she did the statue with the sacred milk and the sandalwood paste, and then she gave life to who was going to become her second son. And she called him Ganesha. What she did is that she appointed him as her personal bodyguard and the palace protector. So the child took this appointment, this role, very seriously. And what happened is that all this happened while Lord Shiva was not in the palace. And he took it so seriously that when Lord Shiva came back, they didn't even knew each other. He didn't allow Shiva himself, which is the owner of the palace, to enter. And Lord Shiva got so upset that he cut the head of Shiva. He decapitated Ganesha. When Parvati heard all these strategies, she was so in despair and so upset also that she threatened to destroy the entire universe. So Shiva, in order to calm her and to pacify his wife that was in such a difficult situation, what he said was that he promised to decapitate the first being that appeared, and he's going to transplant the head of this first person beast onto his son. So there was an elephant. The elephant was the first beast, the first animal to appear. He removed the head and then transplanted it onto the child. And this is the story of Ganesha. We can see an image of Ganesha now. We're going to continue sharing about the goddess, or the Devi, of this first center. The goddess and Shakti, or power, of this chakra is Dakini, which is one of the faithful attendants of the goddess Kali. Her eyes are going to be brilliant and red, and her face is like the beauty of the moon. Her body is also very radiant. She has 4 hands, and she's carrying a skull, a trident, a sword, and a shield. We are finalizing, after sharing about the devas and the deities presiding this first center, speaking about the element or tattva of this center, which is, as we mentioned a few times already during all our classes and also today, it's earth, which is tattva prithvi. This one is going to be expressed in the way that we are relating to our physical reality as it's perceived by our senses. So the essential characteristics of this earth element are stability, solidity, but also slowness. So every solid structure in the universe, as well as in our body, are an expression of this tattva of Prithvi. So from the mountains, the planets, the rocks, to our bones, our muscles, our teeth, everything is comprised and it's originated from this earth element. Each element, it's going to have a psychological influence on its respective chakra. So this influence can be either positive or it can be negative. So if the influence of the earth is negative, we're going to have a difficulty accepting new ideas or point of view. Our mind is going to be acquiring the quality of solidity, but it's going to be in our mind. We're going to have a very set we're going to have a set of rules, a set of ideas, and we're not going to be open to new ideas, to new points of view. But if the influence is going to be positive, then we are going to be able to be mature, we're going to be firm and consistent. This is going to be expressed in our discipline, in our firmness, in this strength, because we spoke how this is also related to our willpower. So we're going to have this maturity, this firm and also consistency in order to also accept new thoughts, new ways of seeing life. But if it's negative, as we mentioned, the solidity is going to be expressed in the way that we see life and the solidity of our mind, very close, very heavy in order to accept new points of view. This is everything for today. In our next class, we're going to keep explaining in regards to the Muladhara chakra. We're going to get to know the color of the tattva, the color of the chakra itself. Even though we see it, we're going to mention the aromas that are related to it, the different organs, the karmendriyas, the jnanendriyas, and finally we're going to close that class speaking in regards to how it influences our psychological aspect when this center is balanced or imbalanced. Thank you very much for joining us today. Jai Prabhuji.